All right. So we're going to have a quiz on Monday, a short little quiz over stuff we've been doing. Last 2 days we were doing discrete domain and range. Today and tomorrow we're going to be doing continuous domain and range. Okay. So again, quiz Monday, test next Thursday. That's how it's going to be. Okay. These 2 assignments are due. Turn these in, please. I promise to update your grades today, and also promise some other things. I guess never mind. All right, so first things first, let's solve for y. We did this on Tuesday. Do y'all remember how to solve for y when there's an x? If not, it's time to learn. Step 1, if you want y by itself, x has got to go. So look, the negative 3x, I got to do the opposite. What's the opposite of a negative 3x? Positive 3x plus 3x plus 3x, right? Can everyone like mentally screenshot that? You got to do the opposite of the x. Scratch it out. Bring this down. When you bring down the y value, does everyone see it's not just 7, there's a negative, right? It's a negative 7y. Please don't forget the sign. Bring down the equals. Does anyone remember what I've told you about the x's and the constants? Can they combine or no? No, okay? The 3x has to go in front of the minus 14 because they're not like terms. So 3x minus 14. Put it in order. That's step 1. Step 2, I can't have anything in front of y. Invisible math tells me this is multiplying. So how do I get rid of that number in front of y? So it says minus 7. You might think it's plus 7, but it's dividing. It's always dividing on that last step to get rid of the coefficient. Divide by negative 7. Everything gets divided by negative 7. Okay? So I end up with y equals, that's what I wanted. Now 3 divided by negative 7 is going to just be negative 3 over 7. If you're not sure how to tell if that can reduce, please, in the future, you'll have your Chromebooks and you can type it into Desmos and check if it reduces, right? Okay. And then what's negative 14 divided by negative 7? Negative divided by negative is a positive. Don't forget x. Positive, and then 14 divided by 7 is 2. Does everyone know that 14 divided by 7 is 2? Because 7 times 2 is 14, right? Hopefully. All right. That being said, we got some notes to do on continuous domain and range. Let's try to knock this out. So I can give you a little time at the end to work on the assignment. All right, here we go. All right, look, here we go. You have your learning intention, your success criteria, everything's good here. What is domain and range? So since we already talked about this, here we go. Domain and range is all possible x values is domain, and all possible y values is range. Please write this down. We kind of already knew this. Okay. X values are domain, y values are range. And I want you to underline the CON. Continuous is when the given points are connected. CON. Continuous, connected. Okay? That's the first stuff we got to know. Domain is X, range is Y, continuous is connected. Now, down here, I'm going to use the inequalities Do you remember how to say those symbols? Less than and greater than, right? If I see what's called an open circle. Does everyone see that this circle is not shaded in? It's open. Okay? However, if you underline those inequalities, if it's less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, that is going to give you an endpoint that is called a closed circle, not open, can't see through it. And I want you to write the words shaded in. If it's shaded in, that's an underlined inequality. That's inclusive, that is equal to. If it's an open circle, that is not underlined, non-inclusive of the endpoint. Write those down, and then we're going to try an example after we write down the next piece. So on the next piece, go ahead and write this down. Domain is the highest and lowest x values from left to right. Very important. From left to right. Start here, go here. Range is vertical, highest to lowest y values. This is one of the most important things you're going to see. From bottom to top. Okay. From bottom to top. So on this graph, I would start at the bottom, and I'm going to look from bottom, and then I'm going to go towards the top. Okay. Sometimes we say things, and we're not thinking about it. Usually when you think vertical, you think top to bottom. But no, it's bottom to top. Start at the least, go to the greatest. Very important. I'm saying it. I hope you're hearing it. I hope you're writing it and understanding it. Okay. With that information, we're going to do an example at the bottom once you have this down. All right, is everyone good on this so far? Let's do an example. Okay, example, here we go. Here we go. Now look at this example right here. What's in the middle of the domain line? The letter X, right? What's in the middle of the range line? The letter Y. You're going to always write X in the middle and Y in the middle. Okay, these are the training wheels, they're already there. Here's the second thing you're always going to write, okay? So go ahead and write this off to the side here. You're always going to write less than signs, okay? And then sometimes you're going to put, oh my gosh, hold on. I messed up. Sometimes you're going to underline it, okay? So always less than, sometimes underlined. Okay, here's what I mean. On both sides of X, put a less than, okay? Less than. On each side of Y, less than. The reason why we put less thans is because we're saying X is between two numbers, and Y is between two numbers, okay? So now we're going to look at this. We're going to look at the domain, okay? Now, on the domain, do we start on the left or the right? The left, the least to the left, okay? So look at this point right here on the left. Y'all see where my cursor is? What is the X value right here? So you can go straight down to the X axis and tell me, what is that X value? So kinda, Here's 0. It goes to the left 3. What kind of 3 is that? Negative 3, right? So that means the left is going to be negative 3. You look at the left, you look at the x, that's the x value. But is this inequality going to be underlined? So look at that endpoint. Do you see how it's open? Is an open circle going to be underlined or not? What do you think? And just a reminder, okay, we talked about this here, or did we? Here we go. We talked about this right here. If it's an open circle, it is not going to be underlined. No underline if it's an open circle like this, okay? All right, back to it. So I'm going to leave this not underlined. So that was on the left. Now follow this graph all the way to the right. What is the x value right here on the right? Go straight up and look at the x-axis. What is this x value right here? What do y'all think? What's the x value right here? 3, right? I know it says it here, but I mean, you got to look at this won't always be there. Okay, so you got to look at the graph. This is 1, 2, 3 to the right. So go ahead and put 3. Now, is that endpoint shaded or not? So look right here. This is shaded in. Do y'all agree? If it's shaded in, should I underline the inequality? Everybody, when it's shaded in, should I underline the inequality? Yes, shaded in is underlined. Y'all see that? Okay, so right here, put a little underline on that inequality. Do you see how the left one is not underlined, but the right one is? It's because the left endpoint is open and the right endpoint is closed. You got to know the difference. Okay, so make sure everyone's looking this away and understanding what I'm saying. This is so important. You're going to do this for multiple years of high school, I promise. And maybe into college. So this is the time to figure it out. Talk about range. Range is vertical. Is it top to bottom or bottom to top? Bottom to top. So go to the very bottom, bottom. Here it is. What is the y value here? Because range is y. So look over here on the y-axis. What's this y value? 2 below 0 is negative 2. Okay. And then, is that bottom one shaded or not? Well, this is shaded, so should it be underlined or not? Underlined. Does everyone see why? The bottom point is shaded in is underlined, okay? Then it goes to the tippy top. What is the y value here? So right here, you go over to the side. What is this y value? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? This is 4 above 0, so put 4. And since it's open, I am not going to underline it. That is done. Okay? Make sure you have that down. Flip it over. We're going to do 2 more examples. All right. Here we go. On the next page. What do I put in the middle of domain? What do I put in the middle of range? What letters? Domain is x and range is y. What do I put next to x and y? Less than signs. Go ahead and put the less than signs. Less than, less than, less than, less than. I don't have a steady hand here. I'm doing my best. Okay, now go to the far left. On this graph, the far left, this x value is negative 4. So go ahead and put negative 4. Should I underline it? What do you think? Yeah, it's shaded in. So there you go. Go to the far right. What's the x value right here? Look straight on the x value, x-axis, I should say, and that is 6. It's an open circle, So I'm going to leave it not underlined. That's domain. Okay? Now, for range, again, we're using the range, we're using y, less than, less than. Let's go from, again, bottom to top. So on the bottom, here's the bottom lowest point. What's the y value right there? It's 3 below 0 right here. So that's -3. Should I underline it? Shaded in means yes, we underline it. And at the top, it's right here, 2 above 0. So that's going to be y value of 2. It's open, so you do not underline it. Okay? Make sure you have that down real quick. Do you see how this works? X and Y are in the middle. You put less than signs. If it's shaded, you'll underline. You go left to right for domain. You go bottom to top for range. Now, what's weird about number 2? What do you see on this thing? What is that? What's this thing right here? An arrowhead. What do arrowheads mean? Does it stop or keep going? Keeps going. An arrowhead means I can't write forever, but pretend like it keeps going on forever. Okay? So it has one endpoint, and then it just goes that direction forever and ever and ever and ever. Okay? So here's the deal. You got to be a little careful when you do these. Go ahead and put X and Y in the middle, just like we did before. Okay? But don't put less than on both sides. Let's think about this. From left to right. Does it have an endpoint on the left? It does. But does it have an endpoint on the right? No, it keeps going forever. So here's the deal. Since there's no endpoint on the right, you're not going to put anything on the right. Leave it blank. So on the left side, go ahead and put a less than sign. Then, what is the x value on the far left? So this is 2 to the left. That's -2. Should I underline it? It's shaded in, so yes. Since it does not stop going to the right, I'm not going to put anything on the right of the x. That's it, okay? Now, how do you say this? -2 is less than or equal to x. Now, look behind me. Y'all remember back when we did inequalities back in August 20th-ish, okay? We learned usually x is on the left side. So if you see something like that, that's one-sided, you kind of want it to be flipped around where x is on the left side. So above this, go ahead and put or. And the other way you can write this is by flipping everything over, including the inequality sign. So it's going to be x greater than or equal to -2. That's the way you're really going to see it if it's multiple choice. And doesn't that make sense? X is greater than or equal to -2. It's to the right of -2. Makes sense. Now for the y, please don't start at the end point. You start at the bottom to the top. Now how far down does this go? Forever and ever and ever, right? So there is no bottom. You're going to leave this left space blank, okay? But at the top, it does have an endpoint. So put the less than on the right side of it. And how far up does it go? This is 6. It's shaded in, so we're going to underline it. This, my friends, is it. There is nothing on the left side of the y because there is no bottom. It just keeps going down forever and ever and ever and ever. Okay, that's it. Now, let's flip it over. Hopefully you get the basics of domain and range, of continuous functions. This is what some would call the harder part, okay? Now, I'm going to just throw this on the board for you here, okay? Go and write this down, please. Step 1, okay? Hold on. I don't want you to just copy this. I want you to hear me say this. Number 1, okay? First things first. The left side of your inequality, you're going to write that first. I'm going to show you how to write this, but you gotta lock in, okay? Because it's going to be kind of weird. You always start with this phrase, all real numbers. What is it? All real numbers. You always write that first. Then you're going to put greater than. Okay, I know this looks like a less than sign, but you're saying that the x is greater than what? So x is greater than -3. Now notice, I didn't put equals because it's not underlined. Okay. Step 2 is this second circle here. Instead of greater than, now I'm going to say x is, all real numbers, less than, and this time it is equal to, +3. So you make those two statements in your brain, and step 3 is you stick them together. So here's step 3, put it all together, and I drew some red arrows to kind of show you where I wrote stuff and why. So we always start with this phrase, all real numbers, greater than, without an equal, the left number, and less than or equal, the right number. Okay? I'll let you get that down. All right, range. Get this down real quick. Very similarly, okay? You always write all real numbers. The first one's going to be greater than. This one happens to be equal to -2. Then the next one is less than, not equal to, +4. Okay, so write that down to the range. Bottom half. Again, this is the bottom half, range. We did the top half, now we're doing the bottom half. Then we'll do 2 examples on the back and call it a day here. All right. Does everyone have these written down? Flip it to the back, please, because we gotta go over some examples. Last chance. Anyone need this? Okay, here we go. on the back. Now, I'm going to write down the domain and range for these real quick before we write them verbally. These are the same two problems on the second page. So we've already done this. So I'm not rushing through this. I promise we've already done this, okay? So go ahead and write this real quick with me because I'm trying to save some time here. X less than or equal to -4 less than 6. Y less than or equal to -3 less than 2. Okay? That is what we got earlier on the second page. But how do you write it? The word is verbally. On your assignment, it's going to say verbal. That means you're writing with words, just like the page before this. So we just did this. What are the first three words you write? All real numbers. Can everybody write down all real numbers for domain and all real numbers for range? That's what you start with. All real numbers. Okay? All real numbers. All real numbers. Okay? Now, step one, you always write greater than. Write it down. All real numbers. Greater than. Now, should I put equal to or no? Underline means greater than or equal to. And then the number is -4. And now we're going to put, instead of greater than, we're going to put less than. Now, is this one going to be equal to, if it's not underlined? No equal to. So just less than, what number on the right? 6. Period it. Okay. All right, write that down. On the range, all real numbers, what do I have to write next? Just like last time, greater than. Now you can kind of barely see it, but this is underlined, so it's going to be greater than or equal to. What number's on the left? -3. And what about, okay, now we're going to do less than. Is it going to be equal to? I can tell it's not underlined on the right, so it's going to just be less than 2, period it. Okay. I can't do it. Write that down real quick, and we're going to do the last example and be done, okay? Last part. Now, again, this is from page 2. We already went over this, what the actual domain is. But we said x is going to be greater than or equal to -2. And the range is going to be y less than or equal to +6. Okay, this is all stuff we've already talked about on page 2. If I can just write correctly. I don't know what's going on here. I just want it to look like a y, not an x. Oh my goodness gracious. Whatever. All right, so let's do it verbally. I always start with what 3 words? All real numbers, comma, greater than is for sure going to be next. But hold on, hold the phone. Let me actually edit that. All real numbers. Now look, since there's not two sides of this, since it's just x and a number, you're just going to write all real numbers and tell me what that inequality is. How do you just say this inequality? Is that greater or less? Greater than or equal to -2. That's it. Since it's a one-sided inequality like that, greater than or equal to -2. Same thing with the range. All real numbers, comma, what is that inequality though? This time it's less than or equal to 6. That's it. I'm going to pass out your assignment, which we barely have any time for, but you're going to have time tomorrow to work on it. Okay? So when on your assignment it says verbal, you're going to have to write it verbally. All real numbers, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, all that good stuff. Okay. Y'all got this. Start today, finish tomorrow. That's the plan. Here we go.